Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Great Hall of Edinburgh Castle. In politics, and probably in life as well, and perhaps in energy, but you get to do few things which are very important and almost next to nothing which is really very important. This is one of the occasions which, in my view, is really very important. When we launched the idea of the Saltire Prize back in Washington earlier this year at National Geographic, they were kind enough to say it was an example of a small country making a big difference to a global challenge. And I was delighted that Mr. Terry Garcia took ownership of that phrase today in front of the Scottish Press Corps, because I like to believe and think that that is exactly what we're doing as a small country making a big difference. Now, of course, we're all in this room in particular well aware that the Saltire Prize does not stand alone. It stands in a whole range of things that require to be done to meet this challenge and to take this opportunity, but it's one of the ingredients that can perhaps translate a development so it would take 50 years and compress it into perhaps a decade to produce serious amounts of power in Scotland, and then use that model to produce really serious amounts of power across the planet. I see Madam Tan, for the Consul General for China, is with us this evening, and we were just working out that whatever we manage to do in marine renewables in Scotland, you can multiply that, folks, 240 times if we pro-rata up for the People's Republic of China. So whatever we do and whatever we manage in terms of meeting the ambition of this prize, then it will be applied the world over in terms of the opportunities that marine renewable technology provides. Now, the scale of the opportunity we know about, and we've known about for a number of years. I didn't coin the phrase the Saudi Arabia of tidal power, but I love using it. Sometimes I do claim I coined it, actually, but I didn't actually. The ownership of that belongs to a professor at Aberdeen University. But nonetheless, it is a phrase and a concept which projects the extent of the possibilities. We believe, we know that a reasonable estimate of the achievable potential resource in a relatively realisable timescale is perhaps 30 gigawatts of power in the waters around Scotland if you combine wave and tidal power. I see already some people in the audience say, no, it's a lot more than that. But we know, even in that sense, it would be, what, 6 times, 5-6 times Scotland's own electricity generation requirements. And who knows, as the technology improves and develops, perhaps we could realise more than that. We know there's a lot has to be done in terms of the infrastructure of taking the industry forward. And in that light, I'd like to read to you a few quotations. It's a bit like weddings, you know, you get messages of support. So we've got messages of support for tonight's event, and I'd like to recognise firstly Chris Bennett from the National Grid Future Transmission Network Manager, who's written to us to say we'll be working hard with the Scottish Government and our colleagues in the Scottish transmission companies to help connect renewable generation and ensure Scotland realises its huge potential for renewable energy. Recent discussions very recently indeed take that as a commitment that the issues of grid connection are now being recognised and tackled. So the immediate prospect, I believe and hope, will be that machines will actually be able to be connected to the grid, which would seem a reasonable way to proceed. I have a letter also from Ian Pritchard, the head of offshore operations at the Crown Estate, saying the Crown Estate will be working closely with the Scottish Government to provide developers with a clear and straightforward site application and consenting process. Again, a recognition from the partners in this process that not everything that hasn't happened in the past has been great, and the things that are starting to happen now are much better. People realise the extent of cooperation that's required to make these things possible. But if I could give pride of place in the endorsements and messages to Commissioner Peebles, who's written to us to say the Saltire Prize challenge has been set, the prize is there to be won. I would like to extend my thanks to all those pioneers preparing to take part in the competition. Good luck with your endeavours, and I will follow your progress with interest and admiration. The Commissioner, more than any other previous Energy Commissioner, has bought in to this concept, this idea, and also, as you'll realise very recently, prioritise transmission systems across the North Sea as one of the great European energy priorities for the next generation. So the issues which have bedeviled the industry, the issues of the framework in which we operate, the issues of getting access to the grid, the issues of recognising if this is successful, then there's going to have to be transmission of power on a previously unthought of scale, the issues of getting into being a support mechanism which actually supports the production and the development of electricity through the ROCs, the planning consents, the awarding of space and the seabed or the shores, all the things that most of the companies and scientists represented here would rather not be too bothered with as they get on with the job of actually producing the power. These things are not solved, but they are on the way to a solution. They are on the way to getting better, and the various organisations, including this government, who realise they have a role in making these things happen, are now rising to that challenge. These things are being done. And therefore, we are entitled to raise the challenge to all of you, and indeed to across the world. And that is the Saltire challenge. That is the challenge of innovation that will allow serious amounts of electricity to be produced in a defined timescale that can be measured and judged and will point the way to a totally different perspective in the generation of renewable electricity. The generation of energy from our seas, from tide, from wave, harnessing some of the most powerful forces on the planet in a mission to save the planet, putting Scotland at the epicentre of these developments. In that time in the States earlier on this year, I was delighted with Fortune magazine saying in an article entitled, Scotland rules the waves. Well, we want Scotland to rule the tides as well, if that's all right with everybody. There's no limit to the scale of our ambition. We want Scotland, because of our topography, because of our geography, because of our natural and comparative advantage in these matters, to be seen as the natural place to pioneer, to develop, to demonstrate this technology, and to do it on a scale which people realise is going to give us a serious contribution to these planetary challenges in a defined period of time. I'm delighted you're able to join us this evening. The Great Hall of Edinburgh Castle, heated entirely by renewable energy, but will be, if you lot rise to the challenge. I'm delighted to see you all here, and I want to introduce Professor Anne Glover, who's going to unveil the terms of the challenge of the Saltire Prize. Thank you very much.